The party says it stands firmly behind embattled Kpandai MP Matthew Nyindam as Parliament officially declares his seat vacant. This follows a High Court order for a rerun of the 2024 Kpandai parliamentary election. Parliament has since complied, notifying the Electoral Commission to begin the necessary processes. The NPP, however, says the battle is far from over. The party has pledged to exhaust every legal avenue to support Matthew Nyindam, who has applied to the Supreme Court seeking to overturn the High Court ruling. Joining me in studio is Director of Communications for the NPP, Richard Ahiagbah, to discuss this issue further. Good evening and welcome to CNR.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Quite well.
Right.
Not exactly, but I'm okay.
Good to know.
Yeah.
To begin with, how do you respond to concerns that the conduct of the NPP MPs today was, for want of a better word, distasteful?
Well, good evening again, and evening to your viewers. The conduct of the minority which is rolling on your screen is democratic. That's the look and feel of democracy. So to describe it otherwise would be seeking to characterize something other than democracy. But what they are doing there is the evidence, and people in a democracy ought to do that when they feel that people are using other means to upend the fundamental basis of a democracy, which is election. People are using other means to change how people lead and represent people in Parliament.
What exactly do they intend to achieve with these disruptions, given the fact that the clerk has already notified Parliament?
In a democracy, all you have is your voice, and they are exercising that. The clerk to Parliament, and I heard the majority leader quote the Constitution, I think Article 1125 or so, which then gives the clerk, the powers to do what he was doing. And so therefore, inevitably following the 7-day maturation, he ought to notify the Electoral Commission. But the clerk is an interested party. He's been served with all the processes, including the notice of appeal at the appeals court. He's been served on that. Even the judicial review request before the Supreme Court, he's been served in that. So given that, okay, he needed to have at least allowed for that, because what we're dealing with is not just any normal situation. We're talking about a democratic right, the will of the people of Kpandai, that is come under attack by the judiciary to say that the choice of people in Kpandai should just be set aside over an agitation involving 500 votes in 41 police stations. That is not proportional decision to make. It's almost like taking a sledgehammer to kill an ant. And so if you are a Democrat, you resist that by every means democratic. And if you look at some precedents, okay, even in in this Fourth Republic, there have been instances where parliamentarians have been, their elections have been avoided. I go back all the way, I think 2001 or so. One of the NDC MPs, one Samuel Yimaka or something, he had a situation where his election was voided, but Parliament treated him as MP whilst he was pursuing an appeal of that process. The Mr. Honorable Jachikwesin's case that the NDC is their refrain, when you say that they go back to that, even him was not treated the way they are treating Honorable Nyindam, because before he was sworn in, January 7th, there was a case pending against him, but then he was sworn in. His election was only nullified, I think, in July of 2021, right? And even that, he continued to be in Parliament. He continued to be in Parliament. It was in 2022 when the Supreme Court issued an order injuncting him from acting as an MP. And even that, his seat was not declared vacant. It was in 2023 when the Supreme Court gave a final decision in that matter. Before his case, his seat was declared vacant, and we went to have to contest for that. So the point here is that why hasn't all these things applied to Nyindam? Especially when the clerk is served with the process. Just tomorrow, the stay of execution will come up for hearing. the notice of appeal is coming. The judicial review
Is
at the Supreme Court is coming.
Is that to say the NPP has already filed?
Yes, all these processes are filed. And in fact, today a search was done, which indicated that the third party in this case, being the clerk, has a copy of all these processes. So the question now is that why the hurry? Why the hurry, especially in a democracy? Look, we make the collective mistake in the country where when these matters come, then we are looking at the law. What is the law? What's the law? Fundamentally, in a democracy, what you're looking at is the people's right to select their leader. That precedes anything. Okay. So when people have gone to select their leader, which is the raison d'etre of any democracy, you cannot upend that simply because there's a ruling. When that ruling actually is up for an appeal, you exercise caution. So that's why you see that in Parliament. Right. We are not going to understand this, especially if they are speaking democracy, which is what the majority leader is on his feet talking about, quoting constitution up and down. If you are doing that, then you must respect the processes that gives support to people's choice. If you have a case about 41 police stations, and what is at issue is about some 500 votes, and you have lost the election, which much more than 500 votes, 3,734 votes. So we can even agree to give you the 500 votes. That will not make you the winner. Right. So why is the judge looking at this and asking that we do a rerun instead of examining the issues that have been put before him? This is not right. Right. In our view, the NDC is seeking to earn what it couldn't earn on the 7th of December in the polls through the back door, using the judiciary. After all, now, they have instilled some measure of fear in the judges. We must admit that. Because if you can remove the Chief Justice, who else can't you remove? Because over there, the processes are more extensive. So, but look at that, he's gone, or she's gone.
On the substantive issues of the clerk's letter to the EC, which laws do you believe have been breached?
We're saying that we're not contending any law that is breached. Okay. But I made a point to you that in a democracy, the law comes after, okay, the democratic right of citizens. The law restrains the abuse of the rights that democracy provides. But the law is not the essence of democracy. So if you are arguing law in a democracy, you are getting it wrong. But the rights of people are at issue. And if you are dealing with that, you ought to be mindful. I was making the example to somebody earlier, that imagine that the 2012 election, which was contested, in court, in that election petition 2013, imagine that there is a certain outcome where the judges say that, oh, President Mahama didn't win the election, and it's Akufo-Addo who won. But meanwhile, he's been sworn in. Okay, his operation, I can use even the 2020 to contest and make this example. Can you imagine what will happen? Right. You understand? The chaos. And so if you are sitting as a judge looking at this and that precedent, we have reason to believe that we won that election 2012. But somehow I believe in the wisdom of the people, the judges who sat on the case thought that for the purposes of allowing peace and democracy and somehow to the tranquility of the country, let's go this route. So you sit on a case like this and you chose that after somebody has lost, contending 500 votes. You think that ordering for a rerun is the best thing to do rather than resolving this issue. I think that he is inviting chaos over common sense solution to a problem that needn't be dealt with the way he's dealing with. So
what's next for the NPP? Will you boycott? Will you take part in the rerun?
I think that will appeal to democracy. And our appeal to democracy is to appeal to you and to appeal to all of us to say that this is something we should not countenance. This is something we should not allow to obtain, because if it does, it provides bad incentive for actors in the future who can also look upon this and say that we can even do worse because in the past this was done. And I have just shown you precedent to show that in the past people were indulged. Even Abu Sakande, who is a member of our party, when he had this issue of his eligibility, his seat was not declared vacant. He went through the process until his incarceration. Okay, that's
Right.
when his inability to serve as an MP came up, and then the seat was declared vacant. But on an instance from the High Court, then you just proceed to do this. We
Right.
think it's in bad faith, it's not democratic. So what you see are a group of people determined to defend our democracy, and on your other side, whichever side they are, right or left, where the NDC is standing, there are a bunch of people who are in above their head, thinking that because they have so much numbers in
Right.
Parliament, they can do whatever they want to do to oppress and to affect our democracy. And I want to make this quick example. I know you want to move on. You just saw what happened in Benin. And before Benin, there was Guinea-Bissau.
Right.
Our democracy is not foolproof. In fact, this second wave of democratic renaissance in Africa started in Benin in 1991. They went ahead of us. Their democracy is more mature than ours. And so when you're seeing these things and you have people tinkering with our democracy in the manner they are doing it, you don't take it lightly.
Right.
We all as citizens must stand and tell the NDC that this is not the way to go, and appeal respectfully to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and say, tell the NDC to stay their hands. What they are doing is dangerous. It is aiming dangerously at our democracy, and they should stop it.
Mr. Ahiagbah, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Let's move on.